if you just go to a search engine and you type in Clifton A. Castile, you'll see the abstract, but to procure the entire article, you will have to pay the journal, because I have no precedence over that. All right, let's get started with communication and the utility of communication. Well, communication sounds very simple. We all do this randomly. You put two people in a room, they're going to start communicating either verbally or through gesture. And babies communicate. So what's the big deal about communication? They cry and get your attention, and it's a type of doing this. And we also do it perfunctorily. We don't even think about it. We just communicate. But what, do we need communication? Sure. We need it in a personal relationship, be it a dating or a marriage. We need it in our workplace. We need it in having a social relationship with a friend. Or if you are a supervisor, you need this. You need to know how to communicate effectively, or it's going to flatline. You know, we humans are very gregarious people. We just automatically start talking to people, even strangers that we don't know. And so we do this. A lot of time, what we do is done through verbal or nonverbal type of communication. But if we see parents, and I so often hear students when I were teaching would say something like, "My parents don't understand me. We don't talk. We just don't get along." So you do need that, because I've heard of people being cashiered from their job because their communication broke down. All right. Or we can smile at someone. That's a type of communication. We can give gestures and different things. There's so many ways that we do communicate. All right. I'm communicating with you now. I'm saying things right now in code. And I have to encode what I want to say before I send it to you, the receiver. And I have to think of what I want to say to you. And I'm going to try to be as explicit as I can, but I can't put every little detail. You, the receiver, will have to decode what I've said. There can be a problem there if you don't decode that effectively. If I weren't that, didn't give you enough details. So what you do is you decode it, make sense of it. What's the meaning? What are they trying to say to me? Then you encode it, and it stays there in your brain as to what I was saying. And you use a medium. What is a medium? A medium could be air, I'm talking now, and it could be screaming at you. Or it could be a written type of medium that we use. Now, all of us want to be better communicators. We all have had someone to misunderstand us through oral communication. And it's more pronounced in oral communication than is written. So how can we improve our communication? Well, we first start by listening. Listening is very arduous. It's a Herculean task almost to listen to people, especially when it's something that you don't agree with, or it's boring, it's trite to you. So you tune them out. All of us believe that we are great communicators, especially if you're erudite, very, you say, well, I'm very intelligent, I know how to communicate. Well, it's just the opposite, because the more intelligent you are, the more you're distracted. Now, listening to someone doesn't mean agreeing with them. The purpose of listening is to understand, not to endorse. You shouldn't be thinking about, what am I going to say to that person? If you do, you're distracted, and you're going to have failure. Clear your mind before you start listening to someone. If you don't want to have a conversation, just say, it's a bad time, I'm in an emotional state, I wouldn't do fair to you, so therefore let's don't have it. The person understands that. But it is a disprising for you to pretend to listen to someone and you're not, because they'll tell later. You know, we have trouble remembering what someone told us 2 weeks later. We can only remember about 50%. So just think, if you're distracted and you're not paying attention, you won't listen to any of this. You won't remember any of it. And the attention span is only 1 minute. If you are conversing with someone, having a dialogue, stop after 40 seconds, give them a chance to jump in it. Don't be like me. I just go on. And that person then go through a process we call wool gathering, where you just ignore, you're in cloud nine and not hearing a thing they say. But you should never tell a person, I understand what you're going through. Consider this. Suppose someone said, I just lost my parent or loved one or something, and you say, oh, I know how you feel. Well, no, you don't, even though you may have. But each person has different emotions. Just say, I hear what you're saying. That's better, because that person may tell you, no, you don't know what I want. Just say, I'm here for you. Want to come over or whatever. Never tell a person, didn't you know that? I knew that. Here's what you should have done about that problem. Well, that never happened to me. And you should never text someone. That's the worst thing if they have a serious problem. Try to be laconic, direct to the point when you're doing this here. Because the problem is that communication will break down. And don't pretend to have all the answers to every conflict, because it makes you dangerous. And that person who's saying this here will say to themselves, I must be so benighted and they must be so smart because they have the answer to everything. I didn't want to answer for them. Here's another analogy. I'm calling to tell you that we're going to have to put Granny in the healthcare facility. And you holler, yeah, you cut them off. Yes, let me tell you what we had to do with my uncle. Well, the person who just made the statement about their granny are saying, hell, I didn't ask you for that. Right now, all I want you to do is listen to me. Be a well-in wall for me. Let me catharticize my feelings. You can tell them 2 weeks later, well, let me tell you what I can give you here concerning this here. And here's another thing we do. If somebody calls us and says, you know what, I bought a pair of shoes, I got 40% off. Let me tell you this here, you cut them off, yeah, I got 60% off on a dress. Person say you just rained on my parade, and you're saying what you got off is more important than what I did. Okay, another thing is apologize. The word apology, mea culpa, you heard that so many times. It's my fault, I apologize. But the reason I think more people don't apologize is that they're saying, I show my shortcoming and make me look silly what I said. Well, it's just the opposite. And I've always apologized, even when I thought I was correct and the person might not have been listening to me. Don't say, if I did upset you, I apologize. If you misunderstood me, I don't know how you could do it, so I'll apologize. It means nothing. We hear people now, and it's all over social media, oh, I apologize. No, they don't. They're saying, I apologize that I put it out there. I apologize that it upset you, but I still believe you look like an ape or you shouldn't be in this country. And so it means nothing. So what should you do? Well, you should say, I apologize and I was wrong. Why wrong? When you say I am wrong, you're saying there's no place to go. It is my fault. I accept culpability. You are not to be inculpated, but I accept culpability. I was wrong. I shouldn't have said it. Nothing I said was right anyway. Then healing began on both the sender and the receiver. But don't say, well, you wear your emotions on your sleeves. You know I didn't really mean that. What's wrong with you? just apologize. And you do it immediately before rigor mortis set in, and here you all are sitting down a month later and trying to do an autopsy to see what went wrong, and everything's decayed, you get nowhere. And 95% of what we believe in our brain is false. It's invalid. Only 5%, but the 5% keeps us safe. We use system 1 part of the brain more than we do system 2. System 1 is where we make emotions. We do it frequently. We do it fast. It's automatic. System 2, you go in and think about it. And we don't have time. If we're going down the street and we see a kid going across the street, we don't have time to go to system 2 and say, should I not? We also stereotype people. If they are nice, we like them, we give them a halo effect. If we don't like them and they shouldn't be in this country, then you give them a horn effect. All right, contrary to what people believe, none of us can multitask effectively. We believe that if we're erudite, we can. We can't divide our brain into 2 different hemispheres. It doesn't work. We're in the cerebral. It can't be divided up like like a computer screen that I have here. It can be divided up. So what do? We go from one task to another task so effectively that we don't even know. It's done so quickly. And so we believe that we can multitask. Okay. Here's a good example. I was talking to a friend. He was on the keyboard. I could hear him. And I said, a policeman stopped me. And I was speeding, and he pulled me over. He heard that part, but then he went back on the keyboard because he filled in the blanks by saying, I know he got a ticket. We go on, proceed down with the conversation. I said, I did not say that. I did not say I got a ticket. In fact, I didn't. All right. How do we communicate? What determines how we communicate? Well, Freud said that we do communicate by using our 3 ego states. And he said we need those to be a well-balanced person. What are they? The ego, and the superego. What's the id? Well, it's the irrational part of the brain. It's emotional. You just make a decision without even thinking. Well, what is the ego? Well, ego is the opposite. It is irrational. Think about it before you say something. The superego is the ethical, the moral part of the brain. Do I want to say this about someone? Do I want to cheat somebody or attack someone? But we need all of those to be a normal or a well-balanced person. The unit of social intercourse is called a transaction. If 2 or more people encounter each other, sooner or later, somebody's going to initiate the contact. That person initiating there will be the transactional stimulus. The person who's receiving that information or that dialogue will be the transactional respondent. All right. Now, transaction analysis, I have it here, is a method of studying interaction between individuals. It's a social intercourse. Let's go with what Thomas Harris said about this. And this was a famous book sometime back, I think in the 60s. And he said, to be healthy, you need to have 4 personalities. Okay, now he's piggybacking on what Sigmund Freud said. He said we all have these 4 personalities that are involved with us. What are they according to Harris? I am okay, you're okay. I feel good about myself, and I think you're great. You're okay, I really do. You should be in this country. We need diversity. The next one, personality state that we're in one time or another. I'm okay, you're not okay. We see this. This is gaslighting. And what that means is this person is saying, I'm okay, but you shouldn't be in this country. Something's wrong. You're dumb. You're this and that. I'm not okay, and you are okay. Well, I think minorities and women have always believed I'm not okay, but those other people are okay. Then you come to I'm not okay, you're not okay. Now, we switching back and forth. All humans be, because we're humans and we switch back and forth with these personalities. Of course, this is the most idealistic personality to be in. All right. Now, let's go with what Eric Burns said. Now, he coined this here, and this book was Games People Play. And it was one of the most read book around. It was kind of pop psychology, but it was around then. I had it, and when I was working in private industry, we had seminars on this. Games people play. And he said, he coined transactional analysis. And he said that we have 3 ego states. Again, he's tied in with what Harry said and what Sigmund Freud. That means that every human being has these 3 ego states at one time or another, and we switch back and forth depending on our mood, depending on what's happening to us, our finance thing. Okay, this one was called parent, adult, and child. Parent, adult, and child. This is person 1, this is person 2. Now, what happens here, this is your P for parent, and this would be the stimulus. That's what you call a stimulus, or that's a sender. And of course, this is a respondent, or the receiver. Okay, now, let's take a look at what the parent. Well, a parent is overprotected. They can't help but be there. They're nurturing, they are controlling, they criticize, they plan for the future. All right, what about adults? Well, they're more rational. They go with what's happening now. How can we solve a problem? Then child, of course, is emotional. We know that that's an emotional state where they're callow, they're selfish, but they're creative and rebellious. All right. Now, talking about this here communicative skill, transaction analysis, better known as TA, you have what we call conflict, where it's cross, or we have complementary. What is complementary? That means whatever you say, the other person, you all keep a fluid dialogue. When it's cross or conflict, then it becomes stagnated, it's not fluid. And we switch, as I said before, over and over with these ego states. So, let's play the game of transaction analysis. All righty, let me give you a couple of working examples here. And keep in mind, we do this perfunctory, from one to the other. We don't even realize it sometimes. All right, let's play this. You got 2 women who are walking. This is first lady, and that's the second lady. Here they're sitting at a bus stop, and one lady initiate the contact, the stimulus, and say, these buses are never on time. It's a disgusting. Well, she's saying this here as if the other person is a parent, and she wants them to be a parent. So we go over here. Now, the respondent or the receiver, this lady over here can say something to make it complimentary. Let's say she's going to make it complimentary. And she says, you know what? You're right. This is our taxpayers' money. Let me tell you, every bus stop is like this. Now, she sends it back to this person, and they can keep a dialogue. This is complementary. It's parallel. No conflict there. Let's take a supervisor. A supervisor talks to an employee. He says, and he decides that I'm going to make it in a parent type. He talks to that employee as if she's a child. And you can tell this is it. Listen what he said. Can't you come to work on time? I am so sick and tired of you never coming to work on time. You want me to buy you a clock? Well, that's the way a parent talk, All right, this person can react in a complimentary way and say, yes, sir, or yes, ma'am. I tell you what, you're so right. I need to get me a clock. Thank you for reminding me. Or let's make it conflict. This is a conflict now. This person can say, as if they were talking to a child, and cross it and say, something, you never come, you just got this little old job some time ago, you take people parking slot, why don't you learn some communicative skills? That's conflict, it's cross, and we're going to have problems there. The lines of communication are not running fluid. Okay, let's take another one. Here's a college student that says, and they're going to take an adult form of ego, and they say to their parent, this is a parent over here, please don't let little Johnny disturb me. I got a lot of things I got to do. I got to study for a test tomorrow, and it's very arduous. All right. She said that to a parent, say a daddy. He can respond from a perennial standpoint, a parent ego state, depending on his mood. And he says he's had a bad day. So he says to her, as if he was talking to a child, and said, you know what, you had that problem in high school. You wait until the last minute to study. That's ridiculous of you. Now, he could have responded in a complimentary way instead of the cross way by saying, I certainly will. Good luck on the test tomorrow. I know you're going to do well. All right. So it all depends on how we feel about ourselves. Okay, here's a parent talking to a child that said, why don't you go clean your room? It's dirty. No problem there. Here's the stimulus. This child is a respondent. That child can say, yes, ma'am, Mom, I certainly will. Thank you for reminding me. I hope you give me a prize for cleaning it up. Now, here comes a child who says to a parent, you know what? May I watch TV late tonight or stay up late and watch TV? Well, this parent can act like a child, or they can give them permission and say, yes, you can. That would be parallel, it would be complementary, or no, you can't. However, this parent is in a bad mood. So what is that parent? As if they're talking to a parent, they can say, you know what? I'm so sick, do whatever you want to do. I don't give a care. I'm sick of this house. Okay, that's cross conflict. Here's another one. A parent can tell a child, you know what, don't waste food. People in undeveloped countries don't have enough food. You just waste food. Now this child here can respond by saying something cross, by saying, oh, you know what, I do take only what I need. And by the way, you waste money, you go and buy things that we don't want, and after all, Dad is the one who spent all the money and go to work. She's talking to a child. It's a conflict, and you know what's going to happen. It's cross. All right. Try to move along here. Okay, you have a doctor who tells his patient, why can't you eat healthy? I have given you a list. Do I have to draw it out and call you every day? Well, he's talking, this doctor, as if he's talking to his child. That's his patient, but he's saying you're just nothing but a child. Now, this patient here can be very, yes, sir, doctor, complimentary, and say, you're so right, I need to, my husband said I need that if I'm going to lose weight, you're right, and I haven't. Or they can say, like an adult would say, to an adult, it's still crossed here, and say, you know what, I do what you asked me to do. I follow the regimen. I've lost 8 pounds, but thank you for reminding me. That's crossed, and you got a conflict there. Okay, here comes this is a patient, a nurse. She's a registered nurse. She's a stimulus. She's going to talk to her friend who's a doctor and say, you know what, I'm a nurse's practitioner, I'm a registered nurse, and I would like to become a nurse's practitioner. Well, this doctor here can respond, yes, I will give you a reference. I think you would make a great nurse's practitioner. Or he can say something that a parent would say. No, I don't think you can become a nurse's practitioner. You're afraid of needles. You don't want to put in the hours. And if he does, he's talking like he's talking to a child. It's crossing conflict. Okay. We got 2 ladies. And one of the ladies here, lady 1, lady 2, and this lady says, you know what? I think I need to buy me one of those smartphones. What do you think? This person can say, yes, I need one too. I think you do well. It's going to be kind of difficult to learn, but I know you can. Or we can take this, depending on this person's ego state, and act like a parent. And she's talking to a child and say, you know what? You can't operate a flip top. How are you going to be able to operate a smartphone? Cross. That's a conflict there. Okay. Try to hurry and get some here. Here's one, a good one, I think. Here's a male, and he's the husband, and he tells his wife, he says, honey, I'm so sick, I think I'm going to die tonight. I don't know why I got sick like this here. I know I'm not going to make it. Well, he's talking as if he's talking to a parent. Well, this wife over here, being very intelligent like all women, will say, you know what, honey, you do have a little fever. I'll get you some chicken noodle soup. All right, that's complimentary, no problem there. Or you may have a man who says to his wife, honey, I can't find my cufflinks. Have you seen them? And she can be complimentary and say, no, I haven't, but we'll look for them. That's complimentary, no problem. However, let's take this. Here's a female over here, and this female is talking to her husband, and she's talking to him as if she wanted to respond in a no. And she says, you know what? I can't find that diamond necklace that you bought me. He can talk to her and say, well, I'm sure you'll find it. Or he can come as if he's out of the ego state of he's talking to a child, or if she's a child, and say something like, why can't you keep up with something? This is what parents do. They criticize. You need a drawer to put these things in. I work 2 jobs that's crossed, and you're probably going to have some yelling at each other, and it's going to be counterproductive.